This video is being sponsored by Educative.io, which has a collection of well-crafted written courses for software developers. Make sure to enjoy their limited holiday sale by the link in the description below. Hey everyone, it's me Rachit and welcome to yet another video. A lot of people, especially college students, are really scared about pointers in C++, and in this video, I'll be demystifying pointers from scratch for beginners. So I hope you find this video very informative. And after this video, you should never be able to see pointers in code or on your screen and be afraid of that. In this video, we will be seeing what and how pointers in C++ work. Then I would ask you whether you understand this line. We will look into it, what this is exactly doing. Then we will move on to why do we need to declare the type of pointer in C++, like if it's pointing to an integer or character or float, why is this necessary? Then we will moving on to the real truth behind arrays, and we will be discovering a pretty exciting thing over here. Then we will be seeing how arithmetic operators work on pointers, like if you do some +3 or +2 on them. Then we will see how equality operators work on pointers. Then we have another interesting interview question. How much time would copying a pointer array take? So this is an array and we are having something like this. I'm having another pointer which points to this array. So whether this will take time to copy all these elements or whether it's order one time. So we will look into that. Then we will also look into the arrow operator in C++. And finally, we will conclude this session by looking at those pointers that do not point to anything. Alright, hey everyone, welcome to this video in mastering C++ pointers from scratch. And let's begin with it. Now, I'm having this line int x equal to 1. And what it essentially does is basically it allocates some memory and we get a reference to it using the variable x. So x is an integer, the value is initialized to 1, and it exists in the stack section of the memory. All right. And why is that? Because it's a local variable. Local variable generally go into the stack section of the memory. For pointers, what you need to understand is that now int x equal to 1, it means that x is an integer. It has some memory address, and we can actually find out that memory address. And that's what I'm doing in the next command. I'm saying that address of x is %p. So this is what you use for printing the value of pointers, and x is actually giving me the address of x. So this operator that you are seeing right now, and x or ampersand x, this is read as address of x. So you can say that this is saying C++ that, hey, give me the address of x. Now this x in this case is integer. It could be anything. It could be char, it could be string, it could be float. And actually it can be also an object of a class. All right. But everything in C++ and in any language has an address, and that's what we are getting out of it. So address of x is something which we can find out by using and x. And now you can change the value of x. You can say x is 10. Initially it was 1, but after this line is executed, the value of x is 10. But what do you think, what would happen to the address of x? Now we will see that in a minute because I'm going to run this. But what do you think? Obviously the value will change, but the address stays same. So over here also the same address is going to be printed. Now you can change it again, but even then if you print this line, the address is going to stay the same. So if I'm going to run this, you can see that the address is indeed same. And this is what the address looks like. Okay. So this is in hexadecimal notation. This is what the address looks like. And actually if I copy this, how do you create pointers now? Now we understand that x has been given a memory address. It's this. But what are pointers? Pointers are nothing but they point to objects. So pointer is essentially containing an address, and it can point to integer, it can point to character, string, float, or object of a class. It can point to anything. But pointer itself is just containing the address of something. What is something? Something is exactly the thing it's pointing to. So how do you create a pointer which points to x? What essentially that means is you have to create a pointer that has this memory address. And how do I do that? Well, I can do it something like this. I copy this address and I paste it over here and I cast it into integer pointer. So this is the notation or syntax that you need to remember. All right. So I'm declaring a pointer which is shown by int star, and I'm giving it the name pointer, and I am storing this address in that. So after this line is executed, PTR is my pointer and it points to x, which is at this memory location. All right. So let me run this. And now what do you think will happen if I print out this? My first pointer is, and I'm printing the pointer value. What do you think would be printed out over here? And next thing that I'm doing is I'm printing value pointed by my pointer is, right? So let's run this. And as you can see, the memory address is printed over here and it is same as this one, right? And the value is obviously 100 because that's what we had, like the last value which we overwrote to x was 100. And that's exactly what we are doing. So pointers are pointing to objects. As you can see, it's pointing to x. Oops. Yeah, the spelling is correct. So it's pointing to x, and you can retrieve values using the star operator, right? And how can you retrieve the address of a variable? What do you think? So as we have seen above, the address is given by ampersand x. So ampersand x gives me the address of x, and I want you to remember this, okay? Ampersand x gives me the address of x. And if I want to get out a value from a pointer, I can use the star operator. All right. So that's what's happening. So the address stored in pointer is of that of variable x. And then I'm getting the value of x using the star pointer operator. All right. So this is how you get out the value from pointer. Cool. So far, so good. Now, what do you think is happening over here? Now I can not only just retrieve value, but I can also play around with the contents stored in that memory address. Now, as we have seen, the address is this, and what I'm saying essentially to C++ is that I want to store -100 now in that location. So now if I run this, what essentially happens is the pointer is still pointing to x, and it's just that the value at that memory location has changed, and therefore the value of variable x is also -100 now. All right, you can change it to anything and it will reflect always. So as you can see, it's changing, right? So I hope so far everything is cleared. Now, the interesting thing is that how do you figure out this value? Now, like let's say if I'm having some other pointer and I want that also to point to x, do I need to always do something like this? Actually, that's not the case. And that's what I'm doing over here. As you can see, I'm declaring another pointer which points to x. And how do I do that? This is the most common notation that you will see in most of the code. And this is something that I just wanted to show you explicitly, that it's nothing fancy which is happening. It's actually storing the address itself. All right. So coming back, this is the more, normal notation that you will see in online code. And what is this is pointer2 will start pointing to x. All right. So essentially you can say pointer2 is same as pointer, because both are pointing to x, both are pointer to integers. Now you can also have pointers to characters as well. Like if you do something like cat_name equal to Rachit, this is essentially a kind of, array kind of thing which is happening over here, because over here name becomes a pointer. And we will see more details in a few minutes. But what do you think would be the size of a pointer to an integer, and what would be the size of pointer to a character array? What do you think would be the output of this? Well, the size of pointer to an integer is 8, and size of pointer to character array is also 8, right? Now the size of an integer is 4 bytes, the size of character is 1 byte, but the size of pointer in both is 8. And the reason behind that is the size of pointer is nothing but what is it storing? It's storing an address, right? This address, it's storing this, right? Since I'm on a 64-bit machine, you will actually need 64 bits to also store the address in pointer, and 64 bits is 8 bytes. And therefore the size of pointer really does not depend on whether it's pointing to an integer or whether it's pointing to an character array. The size of pointer will always be 8 bits if you are on a 64-bit machine. If you're on a 32-bit machine, the address can be up to 32 bits, which means you will require 4 bytes. So the next question that should pop in your mind is, like, if pointer is just pointing to a memory address, why do we need a special type? Like, why do we need whether it's a pointer to an integer or pointer to a character, right? Like, why do we need to describe this type over here? What do you think is the reason behind pointers having a type? Because they are storing address, right? And they can point to anything. So why bother and store whether it's a pointer to an integer or a character or a class? Why do we need that? So here is the deal. Now we know that PTR is a pointer to an integer, right? And name is a pointer to a character array. So if you try to print the content of PTR over here, you will get memory address of X. But what do you think will happen if I try to print pointer plus 1? And what do you think will happen if I try to print pointer plus 2? Well, let's see. So if I run this, you can see that this is the address of X, and just to make sure this is the same, I will go up and show you, yeah, pointer is pointing to this. So this was the address of X, which is printed over here. Now, when I'm printing pointer plus 1, it is actually being incremented by 4, right? And pointer plus 2, you again add 4 to this and you get this, right? So this is hexadecimal notation, and actually this is a step of 4, and I can show you that. So we have this number, and if you try to add 4 in this and you convert that to hexadecimal, you get exactly this A02C, which is exactly this, right? So when you are doing plus 1 and plus 2, it's actually being incremented by 4. And when you will see content of name, this is 00, then name plus 1 becomes 01, then name plus 2 becomes 02. So the increment over here is of 4 and here is of 1. And this is exactly why we also need to store the type when you are declaring pointers. Because since C++ knows pointer is a pointer to an integer, it knows that when you are trying to get the next element, you have to increment by 4 bytes, because the first 4 bytes are being utilized in the value or in the object that we are pointing to. So the next object will start with the memory address, which is plus 4 bytes, right? Makes sense? And for characters, since characters take 1 byte of space, so you know that the next character should start after 1 byte. And that's exactly what's happening. All right, now let's move on to other things that we can do with pointers. Now this is a very common notation that you might have seen. Here we are declaring an array of 3 elements, and the elements are 10, 31, and 999. But a lot of you guys might not be knowing that over here R actually becomes a pointer, right? So you will see that we have not done anything like this, right? We are not using this star, something like this, and we are doing some ampersand of some integer. We are not doing all this, but even then, when you're declaring this, it actually becomes a pointer. All right. And we can actually see that, because right now what I'm doing in this is that we are printing the content of this pointer and then the value it possesses. So R is a pointer, and that's why we are able to dereference the value out of it, right? Similarly, R plus 1, now since it's a pointer to integer, R plus 1 means that whatever address this R has, move 4 bytes forward. Why 4 bytes? Because this is a pointer to an integer. So it will move 4 bytes forward and then print that address. And over here we are dereferencing the value, and this will be the second element of the array. Similarly, this will print the third element of the array and the address of that. So if I actually run this, you can see the content of array is 20, then 24, then 28. So increment of 4 bytes in address, and the values are correctly displayed over here. Now this is, so basically what I'm saying is this star notation R plus 1, and since R is pointer, that's why we are able to do this. This is same as R of 1, right? So this is same as this, and this is just an easier way of working with arrays, right? But this is absolutely correct as well, because everything is a pointer behind the scenes. Now moving forward, I also want to discuss the equality operator on pointers. So let's say if you're having some pointer and you do an equality operation on that. So over here, I'm declaring another pointer, which is named as other, and I'm using the equality operator on my array pointer. So what will happen? How much time will it take? Will it take time to copy all these 3 elements? What do you think? Now the answer for that is very simple. What essentially is happening is we are creating a copy of pointer, not the array, right? Over here, as we have seen, the value of R is this address, and it points to the first element of the array, right? So R becomes a pointer to the first element of the array. Now this looks more complete actually. R does become a pointer, but not only that, it's pointing to the first element, right? And over here, I am copying a pointer, not the full array. So only this address is being pointed. So if I try to print the value of other variable, it will be same as this F020. Other plus 1 will again be same as F024, and other plus 2 will be same as F028. All right. So this equality operation, even when it's a pointer to an array kind of thing, but it's not taking order and space. This will be order 1. All right. So keep this in mind. All right. So if I run this, this will be same as this. As we are seeing, the other and array are pointing to the same arrays now, and it's working fine. Now, what about custom structs? Now, sometimes you have custom structs, and how do pointers work with that? Let's quickly discuss that as well. Now, here is a simple struct, which is for real numbers, and it has real part and imaginary part. And I'm having a function out which prints the real and imaginary part with the iota notation, right? So let's declare this, and then I'm having a real number with 1 and 1 are the real and imaginary parts. So if I run this, we get 1 plus 1 iota, right? So far so good. Now how do we declare a pointer to this? Well, it's simple. You declare a pointer using this notation, real star. The pointer name is p, and we are passing the address of num. So the address of number is stored in p, and p starts pointing to our num variable, which is an object of our struct. So the syntax stays same. Address of number. So remember, these are the two things that you need to remember. This ampersand sign gives the address of whatever comes in front of it, and the dereferencing is caused by this. So if I do something like star p, it will give me the actual real number, and address of number is giving me the address of that variable. All right. So I've declared a pointer, it's pointing to num. So now, as you can see, this is a new sign that you're seeing, this dash and arrow, right? So this is the arrow operator. And so when you're having a pointer of your custom structs, you can actually use the arrow operators to reach out to their different member functions. For example, out, real, imaginary. So you can use the arrow operator to reach out to that. So if I do p out, it will again print 1 plus 1 iota. Awesome. So you have also learned how to deal with pointers in custom structs. This is the notation for that. The address part stays the same. It's just that when you want to take the value, you can use this arrow operator. So you can see that we are using the arrow operator to access the out function which is present in our structure, right? Similarly, we can use the arrow operator to access the real and imag part, but there is another way of it as well. You can use the same dereferencing value, which will give you the whole object of type real, and you can simply do a dot on that, right? Like num.out we are doing. Similarly, if you want, and let me show it by an example. So over here, I am using the dereferencing way, and let me just make sure the spelling is correct. Dereferencing, yeah. So I'm using the dereferencing operator to get the actual value or the actual real number, real object, and then I'm using the dot out notation, right? But this can be a bit tricky, and we will see that in a minute. Now moving forward, again, you can access the real part and imaginary part again using arrow operators, and you will print them, and the values are reflected over here. You can in fact do the same with dereferencing, and I'm not making sure the spelling is correct now, but yeah, so you can do something like, so now if you run this, it's working the same. Okay. Now, so I want you to be a bit tricky when you're using this notation of dereferencing on custom struct pointers, because like take this example. I'm having another real number and I'm using dereferencing to basically store that number in this variable. Now I'm changing that value. I'm saying that the real part for you is 13. And now if I try to run the out of num2 versus p, what do you think will be the output? As you can see, num2 is being changed, but it's not changing the value of the real part of this pointer object, right? So this is pointing to some real number, p is pointing to some real number, but the real part of that particular thing is not changing. And I want to work on the direct copy of that. So I can do it like this. Whatever p is pointing to, I want to change the real part of that to 13. And now if I do p out, as you can see, it's reflected. All right. At the end, I want to talk about null pointers, and this is also something that you often require. Like sometimes you want to initialize your pointer to null pointer because right now it's not pointing to anyone, right? So what would happen if you try to print this? As you can see, C++ beautifully prints nil because it's not pointing to anyone. But another interview question that I have often seen is what will happen if you are having a null pointer, but you try to dereference it? What will happen? It's not pointing to anything. As you have guessed, it will throw an exception, and it's saying interpret exception. It's also giving the warning null pass to a callee that requires a non-null argument. So guys, I hope with this we can conclude this video. I hope now you are not scared of C++ pointers. It's damn easy. All you have to remember are only few things, like as we have seen. And actually, let me put on the comment blocks to talk more about this. So you remember this operator, this gives you the address of whatever comes in front of it, right? Then we had this operator. What does it do? It's used in dereferencing, right? Dereferencing the value being pointed by the pointer, right? So and gives the address, this gives the value, and we have the arrow operator, and this is being used. Arrow operator, when is this being used? Tell me. So this is being used when you want to work on the direct copy of the object that the pointer is pointing to. And also you want to slice out or access the member functions or the data members of the class or object, right? Now I do like educative.io Unlimited because it allows you to buy all courses on their website just by paying once. They already have a very generous campaign running for India, but my audience gets a discount if you use the link in the description below. So yeah, that's pretty much about it. This is what Pointers is all about, and I hope this video acts as a really informative session for you. I hope this is useful. Let me know in comments what you think about this. If you enjoy short written content on software engineering, make sure to follow me on LinkedIn and Twitter. For pictures, follow me on Instagram, and for programming memes, again on Instagram with the account I can't name variables. That's pretty much about it, guys. I will see you in the next one. Till then, happy coding. Bye bye.